In this video, we're breaking the encryption on a Word file. Remember that for security purposes, you should be encrypting your documents, and Word has this feature where you can set up a password on your documents. Now, the whole idea of this video is to demonstrate the reason you should be using strong passwords and not weak passwords. I am using Passware for this demonstration, and have four 1080 Ti video cards that will help me increase the speed of my decryption process. Now, this EVGA application that you see here on top helps me monitor the temperature in Celsius of my GPUs. You will see that when once I start using the video cards to do the decryption, the video cards, they tend to get hot. So it's important that you have this application running. That way you can monitor the temperature and make sure that you don't melt your video cards. If I go to computer management, I can see my resources under display adapters. I have my four GTX 1080 Ti's. These are the four cards that I will be using to break the password. Now this GTX 790 Ti, it's the one that comes with the Fred machine, with the forensic machine. I won't be using that card, so I don't need it. And besides, if I use it, it'll slow down my machine. And I won't be using the CPU. I'm just going to be using the four 1080 Ti's. Now I open my application, and to do this, I go to recover file password, and then I just hit the browse for file button to look for the file. Now before I do that, I have two Word documents that are password protected. One is called Easy for a reason. When I click on it to open it, it prompts me for the password. This is how you know if a Word document has a password. Now the password itself, it's password, all lowercase. That's the reason that I call the file Easy. Now this file has a more complex password. Remember that you should use more than 8 characters, uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and special characters to make a strong password. You will see that it will take me much longer to break this password on this file because the password itself is more complex. If I go to my options, I can see my hardware within the application, and this is where I can select what hardware I'm going to be using to do the attacks, to try to break the passwords. You see my GTX 1080s, and you also see my CPU at the very bottom, and you also see my GTX 750 there on the third line. I will disable the CPU for now, and I will disable the GTX 780 Ti. As you can see, only my GTX 1080 Ti's are working for my first attempt. Once you make your selection, if you make any changes, you click on the save button at the bottom, and then you can start the process. So there's a little switch right here. Just flip this switch to turn it off, to turn it on. If it's gray, it means that it's off. If it's blue, it means that it's on and you are using that resource. I'm going to cancel. I'm not making any changes. Now first you will see that since the password itself, my first document, it's extremely easy, it's not going to take me that long to break it. As a matter of fact, within seconds the password will be found. And here it is. The password, it's highlighted in green. The password itself, it's password. You see how simple, how fast it was, and that's the reason why you shouldn't be using weak passwords, because with sophisticated software and having the right hardware like the GPUs that I'm using, anyone can break your passwords fairly easy. Now the encrypted file, on the other hand, it has a more complex password. Now this time around, I'm not going to use the predefined settings like I did in the previous attempt, but this time I'm going to run the wizard, and that's just to demonstrate that you can actually make modifications to your search. In this case, I can get to choose or tell the application if the password that you're trying to break, it's a one word, if it's more than one word, if it's two words, if it has numbers and stuff like that. So this makes your attempt much faster, because if you know that the password is two words instead of one word, then the application doesn't waste time looking for one word passwords. That's what this is all about. And same thing here, if you know the language, well, in my case it's an English word, so of course I picked that. And this is important here, you can actually set up the password length. You can specify, for instance, if you're doing a pen test on a company, you know that their policies doesn't allow the users to select passwords that are less than 8 characters, then why waste your time looking for passwords that are 4 or 5 characters? So you can save that time, and here you can specify the number of characters that the password should be. And here it gives you an example. If you don't know what they're talking about, well, it gives you an example of what the password might look like. Then once you finish, you just click recover, and the attack will begin. Now I start the attack, and you can see that my card, as soon as I hit the recover button, you see that the video cards start to work. You can monitor the fan speed. If you see that your temperature is going too high, I would say above 80 degrees, then you need to start adjusting the fan, or you can let the application do its work and leave it to auto. That's what I usually do. I leave it to auto so the application adjusts the speed of the fan, so your video cards can get more air when they are getting hotter. You see, it went up all the way to 70. Now it's in the 70s, and you also see that the speed of the fan, it was adjusted to 83%. Now in the application itself, I go back to resources, and I can see the resources that I'm using, and you can also see the current speed that each of those resources is providing. Here at the bottom, the search speed, you can see that it's 460 some thousand passwords per second. Now that's a lot, and you will see why I say that in a minute when I disable my video cards. I'm only using the 4 1080 GTIs. I'm not using my CPU. I'm not using my GTX 750 Ti. Look at the speed. It's really fast. It's 470 some thousand passwords per second. And on the right hand side on the bottom, you can see the current attack. And right now it's checking for any passwords that are 5 to 9 characters in English. So that's the type of attack that it's doing right now. If it doesn't find anything, now it's going to try a different type of attack. Now I've just disabled everything. You saw the speed that I achieved a while ago with my video cards. Now let's see what I can get if I'm only using my CPU. Right now, if you look at the bottom under the search speed, you see that the speed itself, it's falling dramatically. The whole idea of me doing this is that way you can see the difference between trying to break a password with a simple CPU, and I'm not using any CPU. I have an i7 on this forensic machine, but even then, look at the speed of the search, and it keeps dropping, and it keeps dropping, and it will go extremely low. Now at this rate, can you imagine how long it's going to take me to break this password? It can be here for years. I might not even break the password. at all. 2.4 passwords per second. That's nothing. And that is exactly why I'm using my GPUs. Because at this rate, I can be here all year and I'm not going to find the password. So now that you saw the difference, I need to enable my GTX 1080 cards again and look at the speed on the bottom and notice how it goes up dramatically again. Now I have seen more than 600,000 passwords as far as the search speed per second, more than 600,000 passwords per second with the GPUs. So there is a huge difference between me trying to break a password with my CPU and me trying to break the same password with GPU power.